Hello, welcome to this new tutorial. In today's tutorial, we shall talk about Article 21, Protection of Life and Personal Liberty. Well, so Article 21. Under Article 21, it is declared that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by the law. It's a very simple article to understand. Under this article, no person shall be deprived of his life. That means state will not going to interfere, nor any other institutions will interfere when it comes to individual life. In simple words, every individual have a right to live, right to have a decent life, as well as personal liberty. Yes, personal liberty can be suppressed only in exceptional cases, but by and large, it is everyone's right to get a protection of life and personal liberty from the state. It is a state responsibility to give protection and security when it comes to the protection of any individual in the society or in the state. Beside this right is also available to both citizens and non-citizens. So whenever citizens as well as non-citizens have fear for their life, have security concern about their safety, then they can always approach to the state authority, and in return state authority have to give them protection under the Article 21, protection of life and personal liberty. Well, moving forward, according to Supreme Court of India, following are the rights which comes under the Article 21. So here we have a total list of 34 identified rights which are very important, and all these rights are within the purview or within the limits of Article 21. So let us go through these all 34 rights one by one. So the first is right to live with human dignity. It's very simple that every individual have a full right under Article 21 to live his or her life with human dignity. Second, we have right to decent environment, including pollution free water and air, and protection against hazardous industries. Every individual have a fundamental rights to demand and to have environment free from pollution, free from water pollution, air pollution, as well as to demand and to have right for a protection against hazardous industry. Third right under this category is right to livelihood, that every individual have right to earn his or her livelihood. Next, right to privacy, which means that every individual have certain degree of privacy and they can always demand for a privacy. Next is right to shelter, that means they always have a right under these fundamental rights to have a shelter or to demand a shelter from the state authority. Right to health is another area which has been touched upon under this Article 21, and it is a state responsibility in fact to provide basic health facilities to the individual. Next, right to free education up to 14 years of age. The education till 14 years age is free. Next, right to have free legal aid. Here courts come into the picture, and state government always provide free legal aid to its citizens. Next, we have right against solitary confinement, which basically means right against solitary confinement is basically about handcuffing and bar fitters and protection from tortures. Solitary confinement in a general sense means the separate confinement of a prisoner with only occasional access of any other person, and that too only at the discretion of the jail authority. Next, right to speedy trial. Basically, one can always have a right to have a speedy trial in the court, because when it comes to court matters anyways, that's subject to the uh, judiciary system, and but one can always ask for his right to have a speedy trial when it comes to certain cases. Then we have a right against handcuffing, that you can always ask police authority as and when they come to arrest you, and you can always request them that it is your right that you cannot handcuff him or her, uh, and provided you coordinate and cooperate with the authority. Next, it's a right against inhuman treatment, especially this is again relevant to all the human beings when it comes to the inhuman treatment what they sometimes face, or sometimes the treatment what they get from the authorities as well as in the society. So that's another very important right against inhuman treatment. That means everybody should be treated humanly and not other way around. Then next we have a right against delayed execution. Well, this is again related to court matters. There are judgments which are being laid down by the constitution as well as the courts in the India, but there are again when it comes to execution, there have been delayed for various reasons. So one has the right against delayed execution. Then we have a right to travel abroad. That means every Indian citizens, provided if they have valid passport and other documentation, he or she has a right to travel abroad. Then right against bonded labor. Everyone has this right that you cannot be employed as a bonded labor by any institution or any authority. So you have to fight against, and therefore you have the right to fight against the bonded labor. Next is right against custodial harassment. It's very simple that when any individual is been arrested by the police authority, there cannot be a harassment. Police job is to just arrest them and produce before the magistrate within 24 hours. So if at all there are custodial harassment, then one has the right to fight against the custodial harassment. Next, right to emergency medical aid. Every individual have a right and access to the emergency medical aid across the nation. Then right to timely medical treatment in the government hospitals. Yes, when it comes to medical treatment, every individual, every state has to provide the basic medical treatment in the government hospitals, that too timely medical treatment without losing any precious time. Next, we have right not to be driven out of the state. That means a state cannot drive you out of the state for certain reason. As a citizen of this state, as a citizen of this country, you can fight against this forcefully to be driven out of the state, or forcefully you have been asked to leave the state. It is your right to fight for it against such kind of activities. Next, we have a right to fair trial. Yes, the court must ensure that every individual, as and when they have been produced in front of the court, whether they are guilty or whether they are not guilty, well, it is subject to the proofs and arguments in the court. But till then you have been proved guilty, court has to give you a fair trial, so that you also as a criminal or as a convict can produce your side of the case or a story. Next, we have a right of prisoners to have a necessities of life. Yes, all the prisoners who have been put behind the bars under the human rights convention, they has to be given the basic necessities of life, so that they get another chance to improve and rectify their mistakes what they have done. Next, we have a rights of women to be treated with decency and dignity. Well, this is a very important right for all the women and the girls of this society, that they have the right to be treated decency and dignity. Everyone should treat them with the decency as well as dignity. Then right against public hanging. Yes, you can always request, and that is your right, that if at all someone or some criminal has to be hanged according to the court, then he can always request that he should not be hanged in the public. So that's another very important right for the criminal who is in a line or who's awaiting for the sentence of hanging. Next, right to hearing. Yes, every individual have a right that their side of the story should be heard by the court and by the authority. So that's another important right which falls under the Article 21. Next, we have a right to information. Again, this is a part of a Right to Information Act what we have in India. But besides this, under this right, you have right to information or access to certain information. Then we have a right to reputation. In every individual have a right to reputation. Everyone's reputation is important. Therefore, nobody can just put any kind of allegation against you and destroy your personality and destroy your reputation in the society. So under this right, you can demand to protect your right, which is reputation. Next, we have a right of appeal from a judgment of conviction. Definitely, as and when the lower courts pass any sort of a judgment, and if the judgment is against you, then you always have a freedom and a fundamental rights to appeal to a higher authority or a higher court under this right. Next, we have right to social security and protection of the family. Yes, you have the full right when it comes to social security and protection of your family. Then we have a right to social and economic justice and empowerment. Again, this is a broader concept when it comes to right to social justice, when it comes to right to economic justice and empowerment, and one can ask this directly to the state to provide social justice, economic justice, or empowerment. Next, we have right against bar fitters. Yes, when it comes to right against bar fitters, it means almost same to the solitary confinement, handcuffing, and protection from torture. So this right basically protect you from the torture, especially in the police custody. Then we have a next point number 31, right to appropriate life insurance policy. Yes, every individual have a right to purchase an appropriate life insurance policy and also to demand the compensation under such life insurance policies. Next, we have right to sleep. Yes, every individual have a right to sleep, and one can always fight for that liberty to protect his or her priority as well as his or her personal liberty when it comes to right to sleep. Next, we have a right to freedom from noise pollution. Yes, we can always demand that to have a noise pollution city around us or environment around us. So that's another very important freedom under the Article 21. And the last, right to electricity. So these are the 34 different types of rights which have been listed out by the Supreme Court of India under Article 21, protection of life and personal liberty. So I hope you have understood the Article 21, protection of life and personal liberty. In next tutorial, we shall talk about Article 22, protection against arrest and detention. Till then, take care and see you soon.